While the ability to create your own farm from scratch by placing buildings and other items was first introduced in Farming Simulator 19, FS22 took that feature and vastly improved on it. Farming Simulator 22's build mode has been streamlined and is easier to use than ever, but you still want to make sure you know what you're doing, or else you might end up making some costly mistakes. This video will teach you everything you need to know to build the farm of your dreams. While the controls I'll talk about are based on using a mouse and keyboard, this video also applies to console players. You'll just need to make sure you've got the help menu open to see which buttons to use for which controls. The first thing to do when building is find some suitable land. Make sure you find some nice, clear, flat ground to place buildings on. If that's tough to do, I will be covering the landscaping mode later on in the video so that you'll know how to create a suitable space for building. Once you know roughly what you want to place and where you want to place it, head into the in-game shop menu and select the icon with the 3 lines on it at the bottom. There you'll see several options. You want to select the construction option. This will open the build mode. The build mode will open wherever your character is currently located, so make sure you're standing roughly near where you want to build so you don't have to scroll across the map looking for that perfect spot you just found. In the build mode, you can use W, A, S, and D to move around, or just press your mouse against the edge of the screen. If you hold down the middle mouse button, you can rotate the camera by moving it side to side, and tilt the camera by holding the button and moving it forward and back. You can also use Q and E to rotate the camera as well. At the bottom of the screen, you can see options for 3 different types of buildings: general buildings, production facilities, and animal-related ones, as well as tabs for decorations and landscaping. Within each of these categories, there are also several subcategories you can choose from. For example, within the General Building tab, there are subcategories for sheds, silos, silo extensions, containers, tools, and farmhouses. This should help make it easier to find the type of building you're looking to construct. I'm going to start out by placing a farmhouse and build out from there. So we click over to the Farmhouse tab, and here we see we've only got one option. Click on the building to select it, and from there, I just need to figure out where I want it and which direction to face it in. To rotate a building when you're placing it, hold down the right mouse button and move it side to side. Once you're happy with the location and rotation, click the left mouse button to place it down. The building will be placed and the money will be deducted from your account. Obviously, when placing buildings, keep in mind what type of vehicles you'll be accessing it with, and other logistical considerations like where various trigger points are or where pallets might spawn and how much room you'll need to load them. Use this same method to place any other buildings you want on your farm, whether that's a grain bin, dairy barn, beehives, greenhouses, or even a fuel tank. Make sure to check out all the buildings available, as there are some super handy ones in there. With some buildings, when placing them, you'll see as you move the building around, it shows on the screen how much it will cost you to place it in that current spot, and that number will change. This is because, depending on where you put it, the ground will auto-deform to keep the building level. Again, to avoid a ton of this auto-deformation happening, make sure you use as level a spot as you can, or the landscaping tool, which I'll cover in a minute. If you've placed down all your buildings and you've got some money left over, you might want to do a little decoration. In this tab, there are a bunch of different types of fences, gates, and lights, as well as an assortment of other decorative buildings like small sheds. To place a fence, just find the type you want to put down, select it, and then left-click once where you want it to start. Then you can move your mouse around and it will automatically extend the fence. Click again to place another post, and carry on placing posts until you've got all the fence you want. Then right-click to stop placing fences. Like with all things in build mode, be careful when placing them as there's no undo button. The Landscaping tab gives you the power to move heaven and earth, or at least earth. Here you can choose between sculpting the ground, painting various textures on the ground, and placing greenery like trees, plants, and shrubs, as well as meadow grass. Painting and placing greenery is more decorative, while sculpting is a little more functional. In the Painting tab, you've got the option to make the ground animal mud, asphalt, dirt, forest ground, grass, or gravel. A couple important things to note when painting. You can change the shape of your cursor by pressing V, either round or square, and you can change how big it is by pressing N and M. Obviously, if you're painting large swaths of ground, you'll want a bigger cursor, and the small one is very handy for fine-tuning your work. You can do the same thing when placing plants as well. Taking a quick look at tree placing, one nice feature is that you can press V to rotate the tree randomly, in case you're placing a bunch of them and don't want to manually figure out how to make them all face slightly different ways. Finally, let's talk landscaping. In the Sculpting tab, you can choose between raising and lowering, leveling, softening, or sloping the ground. Here you can also change the shape and size of your cursor, and it can be better to use a larger cursor so you aren't greatly impacting very small individual pieces of land. But of course, this depends on what you want to do. When raising and lowering, left-click to raise the ground and right-click to lower it. You can hold the button down as well if you want it to go a little bit faster. Level and soften are a little simpler, and you just need to left-click or hold to do those. Slope is probably the handiest tool for placing buildings, but also likely the trickiest. You use your right-click to set a slope target point, which means the level of the ground that you want to bring everything else up or down to. And then you hold left-click and move your mouse around to slope all of the land that you mouse over to the point that you set as the target. I can see this being really handy if you have a steep drop-off somewhere, for instance, and you want to build out a little bit. Then you can set the target point at the level you want your building to be, and then bring everything else around that point to the same level. Again, be careful and have a plan before starting, since there's no undo button. That being said, a good practice to follow when landscaping, or using the build mode in general, is to manually save before starting, and keep the autosave function turned off while you're working, so that you can quit the game and reload your save file if you mess up. Also remember to save if you've done a bit of building or landscaping that you're happy with, so that if you mess up on your next step, you can load your save without losing all of the great work you did. If you do build something and you want to demolish it, you simply can either click on the building and click on Sell, and then it'll ask you to confirm that you do want to sell that building, or you can click on the Demolish button over here and you'll see each thing that you can demolish highlighted in red. So if I want to delete this light pole here that I put up, once again it'll ask for confirmation and then it will disappear. Now, one important thing to keep in mind when demolishing is that any land deformation that happened when you put that building there will stay. So if it changes the slope of the land or it changes the ground type that is painted there, that will remain after selling. So as I said, make sure that you save when you want to save and keep the autosave turned off in case you want to go back and reload. But don't forget to turn the autosave back on once you've finished your building so that you can always make sure your progress is being saved. And that's how you use the build mode in Farming Simulator 22. Let me know in the comments if there's something I didn't cover, and please subscribe for more tutorials and FS22 content in the future. Until then, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.